So our main goal coming up is going to be focusing on the polygon that has four sides, quadrilaterals. But before we can go into quadrilaterals, we need to go over some important vocabulary that you're going to hear as we're learning about quadrilaterals. And so in this video, you're going to understand the words attributes, classify, opposite sides. We're going to go over the word parallel, congruent, and really focus on what is a right angle. So let's go ahead and get started. First, we're going to talk about the word attributes. Attributes is just a fancy schmancy way to talk about characteristics of something. So for example, let's say I have this cutie pie dog here, and I want to give you some attributes of this dog. I'm basically giving you some of its characteristics. For example, it has floppy ears, fluffy fur, and a strong tail. Obviously, this is math class, so we're not going to be focusing on attributes of a dog. We're going to be focusing on the different attributes or characteristics of quadrilaterals. Let's look at our next word, classify. If you're asked to classify, that simply means you need to sort. So let's take a look here. I have a bunch of sports logos here, and maybe I ask you to classify these sports logos based on what sport they are for. So maybe I'm going to ask you to classify them based on whether or not they are for a football team or a baseball team. So the Steelers, they are for a football team. We have the Ravens there. That is also a football team. Baltimore Orioles, that's going to sort into the baseball team column. So we're going to classify that as a baseball team. The Phillies is a baseball team. The Eagles, a football team. And the Pirates, a baseball team. So all we did here was we sorted them based on what type of sport they were. And that just is a way to say classify, is to sort. Now, obviously, we're not going to be classifying sporting logos. Instead, we will be classifying quadrilaterals. And we're going to be classifying them based on their attributes or their characteristics that they have. All right, the next word, opposite sides. So that's really two words, opposite and sides. Well, we need to know what a side is, and we need to know what opposite means. So let's take a look at this rectangle here. It has four sides, and if we're focusing on the opposite sides, here is one of the sides. Opposite sides are across from that side. So this other side here is opposite. So right now, these two pink sides are what we call opposite sides. There are two sides that are across from each other. If you take a look at this green side, it also has an opposite side. It's right over here, the other green side. Let's take a look at this quadrilateral. It has four sides, two pairs of opposite sides. So one pair of opposite sides is this red one, and across from it, the bottom red one. So this is one pair of opposite sides. And since the quadrilateral has four sides, it's going to have two pairs. So the other pair is this pair of blue opposite sides. So you can see that a shape with four sides, like a quadrilateral, has two pairs of opposite sides. Let's take a look at this quadrilateral. One pair of opposite sides is in blue here. The other pair of opposite sides that are across from each other are in black. And so when we're going to be talking about quadrilaterals, one of the things you're going to have to look for are how the opposite sides are. And so we just needed to talk about what opposite sides means. All right, let's talk about the word parallel. I'm going to give you the official definition. Parallel lines are lines that are the same distance apart anywhere you look. And parallel lines do not meet, nor would they ever meet if they were extended forever. Now, I think that definition is a little bit confusing. So I kind of go with the definition that makes sense to me, and that parallel lines are lines that are going in the exact same direction. Okay, so here are some examples of parallel lines. Parallel lines can be going vertically. So you have both lines going exactly the same direction, exactly up and down, or vertical. You can have parallel lines that are going perfectly horizontal. That means going straight across. And you can see both of those lines are going in the exact same direction, straight across or horizontal. You can also have parallel lines that are diagonal. Okay, the main thing is they have to be going the exact same direction. And you can see there, they don't have to be the same length, but they do have to be going the exact same direction. If I stretch those on forever, they would never, ever, ever touch. Parallel lines are everywhere. In fact, the word parallel, those two L's, is exactly what parallel looks like. Okay. Now, again, these are lines that are going in the exact same direction. So if you take a look at these two lines, they are both diagonal, but they're not the same diagonal. They are not going in the exact same direction. So these are not going to be parallel. You can see here, these two lines are definitely not going in the same direction, and parallel lines will never touch or intersect. And you can see these two do. And so these are definitely not parallel. You can see these two lines are similar direction, but they're not the exact same direction. So these are not parallel lines. Again, parallel lines, whether they're going vertically, horizontally, or diagonally, have to be going in the exact same direction. And what we're going to be doing is focusing on those opposite sides and whether or not they are parallel or not. So that's going to be our focus in a little bit. The word congruent might be new for you. It's a fancy schmancy word for equal or exactly the same. And so we're going to be focusing mostly on congruent sides of our quadrilaterals, and these are sides that are equal in length. So if you take a look here at this rectangle, you can see that the two opposite purple sides, they're congruent to one another. And the two green opposite sides, they are equal or congruent in length to one another. But all four sides are not congruent. Some are long, some are short. If you take a look at this shape, you can see we have our red opposite sides are congruent to one another, but you can see that our black opposite sides, we have a short one and a long one. They are not congruent. And certainly all four of these sides are not congruent. They are not equal. Sometimes you're actually going to be given the measurement. So you can see here, this is telling you that every side is 4 inches long, which means all four sides are equal or congruent. Final one, right angles. So a right angle, the official definition, is an angle that measures at 90 degrees. You measure angles with a measurement unit called degrees, and exactly 90 degrees is a right angle. I would always kind of think about it as a square corner, because I think most of us are familiar with what a square looks like. So if you take a look here at this angle, you can see that the angle here is a perfect square corner. And in fact, that symbol that I put in green there, that symbol actually is like a Captain Obvious way of telling someone, hey, this is a right angle, just in case you're wondering. And again, a right angle is measuring at exactly 90 degrees. Now, a right angle can be in a shape when the shape is not a perfect L like this. You know, you just kind of turn it and twist it a little bit. But again, there's that symbol in the corner that is telling you that this is a perfect 90-degree square corner right angle right here, okay? Now, you guys all know what a Post-it note is. I think a Post-it note is a great tool to kind of help you to figure out if an angle is a right angle, because a Post-it note is a square and each of the angles is a perfect right angle. And so if you take the Post-it note and put it right in the corner there and put it in that angle, if it fits perfectly, it is a right angle. Now let me show you when it wouldn't work. You can see this doesn't look like the corner of a square. This doesn't look like the same type of angle we were looking at. If I take that same Post-it note and stick it in the corner there, you can see it's not a perfect match. This one is smaller than a right angle or has less degrees. This one's actually called an acute angle. Now, we're not going to have to worry about acute angles, or if it's bigger than a right angle, it's an obtuse angle. Our main focus while we're working with quadrilaterals will be on whether or not the angles are right angles, that perfect square corner. This one obviously is not. So again, as we're learning about quadrilaterals, look for the words classify, attributes, parallel, congruent, right angle, and opposite sides. If you are confused in the upcoming videos, you can always go back to this video for this vocabulary again. It will be very important and very helpful.